This podcast is brought to you by Steede Motor Group, Claregalway. For your personalised vehicle shopping experience, find out more at steedemotorgroup.ie.
So delighted now to be joined by Galway senior football selector John Concannon to look at this weekend's club action across the senior and intermediate championships. Just before we do that, John, just to kind of look back on a bit of Galway's year, how do you reflect on 2023?
Well, Paul, I suppose it's disappointing the way it ended, obviously for everybody, and especially the lads involved and the players. We felt like we were going really well, like we were winning matches in the league while not playing great, and having a number of injuries all through the league. Like there was with a lot. We obviously Damien got injured against Roscommon. Dade missed a good few matches. Shane was away. We hadn't Kieran Malloy. We hadn't Sean Will Kearns. Liam Silk, Finian. There was, with a number of omissions. Paddy Kelly was injured. Rob was injured after the Mayo game. So, we had a number of injuries, which was great because it helped us build up the squad. And as I say, we were winning games, tight games, which over the years we might have lost, and we were happy in that regard. But I just think, the injuries eventually took its toll, and obviously then with Sean injured, Damien injured in the Mayo game, that eventually the injuries caught up with us and it cost us. And obviously it ended up a very disappointing year, not even getting to the quarterfinals. But hopefully next year we'll have a bit of better run with Breeze with and a few other lads back, and hopefully 2024 will be a better year.
You've never been involved with a squad that had so many injuries all at once.
No, I was counting earlier. I think we've between 13 and 14 lads that were injured or not available. Like even from the All Ireland final the previous year, no Paddy Kelly, with no Finian Lee, no Liam Silk, no Kieran Malloy. Sean was injured, Damien was injured. It's just the amount of players, that number, any squad would be hurt by that, and it just, as I say, it did affect us in the end.
Just when a lot of people were talking all year about Galway being favourites for the All Ireland, is that hard to deal with?
We never felt that way. I know everybody says it, but literally it was one game at a time, and we had to take one game at a time because the way the league is so constant. It's nearly every week at this stage, and even the championship then was just straight away you were into it. Now obviously we did 2 or 3 week break before the first game, but we never discussed that. We never felt we were favourites for the All Ireland. As I say, we took every game on its own merits, and now while saying that, we felt we could beat any team, and we can beat every team at any stage. But we never spoke about being All Ireland favourites or even looked into that at any stage.
Like as you were saying there, the league went really well. The kind of championship was going really well. Was the break tough to manage then between, say, you obviously were on the back of a league final defeat to Mayo, but then you were able to turn around against Roscommon, really strong performance against Sligo in the Connacht final. Things looked to be going really well, and there wasn't as many injuries even around then. But then, was that break difficult to manage?
The break between which?
Between the Connacht final, say, and entering into the kind of All Ireland round robin.
Well, no, obviously we were, the kind of final was our first game, which we achieved, and I think I don't know, was it 2 or 3 weeks break that we had?
Yeah, 2 or 3. Yeah.
I remember we took a few days off, and we back at it again on the I think we went on the Wednesday night. But no, because we knew the schedule from day one, so there was no break as such. Now, it'd be nice to maybe have another week or two, but if you go, the way the split season is now, you're not going to get a break. And we knew at the start of the season the schedule, so we planned accordingly, and it didn't work out in the end, but it really wasn't anything to do with the schedule as such.
That All Ireland series, though, was obviously something very new and different, and intense as well.
Yeah, it was intense, but that's what the players want. The players want these games all the time. Now, it was intense, and injuries took their toll. As I say, that's not an excuse, but they did take their toll. The players want to play these games. Now, we hadn't planned to, with the way the Armagh game ended up, because we'd have got an extra week, obviously, before the quarter final, and the plan was to win the three group games in order to get the extra week off, and unfortunately that didn't happen. And look, you know yourself, in any sport, if you're playing week on week on week, you're going to get the niggles, you're going to get the injuries, and that extra week would have been very beneficial, but unfortunately that's not the way it worked out.
The way it turned out as well, Damien and Sean and even Dylan McHugh was struggling for a while. Like, they're three, like, they're just vital cogs to the system and the setup you play.
Absolutely. And look, at everyone was talking about Sean and Damien, and obviously they were massive losses, but like the scenes, Dylan was so important. Like, he was a massive loss for us. And again, if we had another week, we'd have been hoping that he would have been back the following week. And again, that's in our own hands, as I say, we didn't win the group, so that was on us. But the three lads absolutely were, you know, they're three of our main players. And as I said, Dylan wasn't mentioned in the same regard as Damien and Sean, but he definitely is one of the leaders in the group, and he was a massive loss as well.
Just then, from, say, Armagh that Sunday in Carrick, and you have to turn around, and obviously everyone just knew that draw was going to happen, and it was going to be Galway Mayo. Mayo wasn't going to be Antonel's. That's such a quick turnaround, like, because that game against Armagh, there was ferocious intensity, and there's probably regrets there too, because there was opportunities to win it.
And there was massive regrets from the Armagh game. As I said, we were down to win that game. Like, Dylan was missing for that, Damien was missing also. But look, the game was in our hands. We missed a penalty, we missed a few easy frees. The turnover, there was 2 or 3 really, really crucial turnovers at wrong times. We did feel that the free at the end probably, you know, it was a bit harsh when you look back at it, but in real time, maybe the referee saw something we didn't see. But look, that sounds like excuses. Again, it was in our own hands. We should have won that game, but that was the biggest, you know. The only thing saying that, it was great. We knew the draw, as you say, was going to be the Mayo game, and that really focused the minds for the week. And look, it was Mayo were in the same boat. They should have beaten Cork, or they thought they'd beat Cork, and they wouldn't be playing the following week either. So the two teams sort of knew, once the results didn't go their way, that they'd be meeting each other. And look, once Galway were playing Mayo, it's really easy to refocus the minds the following night at Tren.
That game, it just felt like in the first half, you went in 8-3 ahead, but there was probably 1 or 2 goal chances, another couple of points. We probably just didn't take, and everyone knows then about that breeze in Pearse Stadium in the second half.
Yeah, look, at even during the first half, you'd be always thinking to yourselves that, look, it probably was an 8, at least 7, 8, you know, sometimes 9 point win, because the wind was so strong in the second half. Especially when Mayo got the goal, you know, you really knew we needed the 7, 8 points. Now, saying that, we had enough chances in the second half to win it as well. You know, we missed a glorious goal chance, and like, that could have turned it there and then, that goal chance. But look, just at the end of the day, when you look back over, we had way too many crucial turnovers in that game, and I think Mayo got 8, 9 points, if I remember correctly, from our turnovers on the day. So look, again, it's going back. It was in our own hands, and we didn't play well enough, and we didn't win it on the day.
What was just that feeling like after that game?
Look, you don't want to lose any day, you know, especially a big game like that in a packed stadium. And it was brilliant to see the crowds, and like the massive support from Galway was just brilliant on the day. And it's a long time since Pearse Stadium was full like that for a big game. But look, at losing any game hurts, but Jesus, losing to Mayo hurts even more.
And even with that, John, were you able to meet up with players and since that? Because obviously, as you're saying there was so much expectation with the year, and you didn't obviously get where you wanted to get, but have you been able to meet up and go through this?
Well, we're actually meeting next week, just to have a meeting just to close out the year, and just to set up the foundations for next year, but nothing on an official capacity. You know, we've obviously met some of the players and spoken to them on the phone, but nothing on an official capacity, but we will next week.
Was it difficult then for you to watch the All-Ireland Football Championship after that?
Yeah, look, it's always filled with regrets, and when you're watching it, you're saying, why aren't we there? We should be there. And it is, look, it's hard to watch it. I watched the final in over in France with the kids, and look at you're looking at it and saying, Jesus, it was it's only 12 months ago since we were there ourselves, and it's hard watching it. But look at again, we've only ourselves to blame.
There was obviously, as the FICO and GA, obviously the players come in for a bit of criticism and stuff after that. But for you, like in the management team, I presume like that's a side you hate to see, because like you and the players and the management team and everyone there are putting in that commitment in the dark winter evenings. You're seeing the work the lads and everyone put in.
Absolutely, and look at it as a group. It's one group, one team, one Galway. Like there's no one at fault. I know. Look at the way social media is and different things now. Some players get a lot of stick, and even the management and Pádraig gets an awful lot of it as well. But look at that's all part and parcel. You expect that the players they're well used to it. While it's not nice and it's not ideal, the players know who their real Galway GA supporters are, and look at any of that stuff online or any abuse that the lads get. It's water off a duck's back.
What would you say was the biggest learning curve for you as a group out of 2023?
Well, again, I'd say, like everyone, a lot of the media hype was saying that Galway were building a big squad, and we were, in fairness. Going back to my point originally, between the 13 or 14 injuries and omissions from last year, albeit we got 2 or 3 additions as well, in fairness. But, when you have 6 or 7 of your key players missing all the time, it's really, really hard. And look, it's our job now to look at the club championships and try and build up the squad as strong as possible. And we'll have to look at the injuries and just make sure that we get the robustness back into the players, just that they can really, survive a tough league and championship season.
And obviously now the aim 2024, all the management team are going to stay, and you're going to give it another rattle.
Yeah, absolutely. Pádraig's away for a few weeks, and I'm sure he's doing a lot of thinking while he's on holidays, and he's always looking to improve the squad, improve the backroom team. So, as I say, we're meeting next week, and I'm sure he'll have plenty of ideas, because he's always, as I say, looking to improve and strengthen in all areas of not only on the football side, but on the backroom side as well.
I presume it's very enjoyable to be with this management team for yourself, Sean.
Oh, it is. But look, as I always say, look, it's a privilege to be involved in any Galway team. You don't get the chance too often, and it doesn't last long. So, look at the group of lads, the players themselves they're phenomenal. The efforts and everything that they put in and the sacrifices they make. And look, it's the same for the backroom team. We've 20 people there in the backroom team, the county board. Like, it's all voluntary, and it's rewarding when you win, but when you lose, it's tough, and everybody really feels it. But there's a special group there of about 60 to 65 people between players and management and county board. And look at they all work their socks off, and they're all looking to improve Galway and make Galway as good as they can be.
Is this hurt something that you feel you can use now in 2020?
Oh, definitely. And look at it, but every county's in the same boat. Only one team wins it every year, unfortunately. So look at the Kerry lads are going to be hurting big time. David Clifford was getting a bit of stick after the All-Ireland, from, again, these social media keyboard warriors and all that. Like, he's going to be hurting. He'll want to prove it next year. Jimmy McGuinness is back now with Donegal. They'll be a force to be reckoned with. Derry are still there. Armagh there with Kieran McGeaney back in chair. So it's going to be a tough season. Everybody's hurt, and everybody tries to use whatever emotional feels they can get to improve them. But every team is in the same boat. But
yeah, it really makes it for excitement when you say Jimmy McGuinness back with Donegal too. It's in for an exciting season. Just before we do get into a bit of the club championship, John, even you talked there about the players got opportunities, but like, you were able to afford opportunities to younger players in the squad, like the player, for instance, Cillian O'Carroll, to come for the under-20s and to get a chance. And like, you probably even see him with 3 or 4 under-20s that came in, their development within that squad in such a short space of time.
Yeah, look at it's great. It just showed, like, there is strength and depth out there. Now, the big debate about whether the under-20 should go to under-21 or not, that extra year sometimes, it hinders the young lad getting onto the county senior panel. But we decided to bring in the 4 lads because, like, they had a brilliant, as you say, under-20 campaign, and look at, they energised the group straight away. Like, as Cillian O'Carroll, even last week. No, I didn't see them, but he's supposed to have got 4 unbelievable points. I saw Liam O'Keneally playing for Spiddle against Milltown, and in fairness, he ran the show for Spiddle, and he's only 20 years of age. And Sean Birmingham and Sam O'Neill. Just brilliant additions, and hopefully we can get a few more now this year. And even Sam O'Neill there, he's playing brilliant football for St James's. So look, we'll be trying to integrate as many as we can, be it under 20s or over 20s. Like, there's a development squad there run by Jeremy Blake, and look, we'll be setting that up again in the next 6 or 8 weeks. And look, we'll be looking at all over the county to try and get as many players as we can.
How important is that development squad?
Well, look, it's very important, because if there's 36 players on a panel, there's another 36 out there wondering, what can I do to get into that panel? So at least if there's a development squad there, we can monitor them, we can go to training, we can play games against the senior team, which we did last year on a number of occasions. Any guys that didn't get a game on the previous Sunday, we put out the 15 against the development squad. And look, it's great. At least it shows that there's a pathway there for the players that are not currently on the squad. And they have an S&C program owned by Jonathan Harris Wright and Keane Brannock, and it makes them feel part of it, and it also gives us access to the players then at any time.
Like that, mentioning the importance of the development squads, but how much value do yourself and the management put on the club championships?
Well, it's massive, because you look at it, I think we brought in 5 new lads from the club championships last year. So it's a showcase for the players to be able to show how good they are. So the lads are full time now. I know they were on holidays the last couple of weeks, but from now on we'll be going to every game, and we'll have lads at every game watching us, and we always get feedback from different people around the county of how players are doing. And as I say, I think it was 5 players we brought in from the club championship last year, so hopefully there'll be 5 more this year. So everyone wants to do well for their club. Look at it, everyone is back from America now, so it's right into the club season now. Every team is a full team. It's getting down to the nitty gritty now in the 3rd game of the senior championship. So every game is vital. Every player will be doing his best, and if they put their hands up, they'll be definitely invited in.
The club championships now are obviously the centre of attention there, as you were saying. This weekend in the senior championship we have round 3, and in the intermediate we have round 2.
Yeah.
Just with that club championships, Mike Cullen at the minute, it's safe to say the introduction of Johnny Maloney, even yourself, James McLaughlin has suffered from his injuries, but he's getting back. Yeah. They really do look like the team to beat already.
Well, look, they're definitely the team to beat. They were unlucky enough last year. They're definitely the top 3 club sides last year in the whole country. Now that Montpellier ran them close, Salt Hill ran them close. Salt Hill probably should have beaten them in the final if you look back. So I know adding Johnny Maloney and James McLaughlin is back, and Jared Avern is probably a better player now from having the experience with the senior team. Peter Cook is a further 12 months on. So they're definitely the team to beat, but I wouldn't say they're unbeatable in the club championship going on last year's form. Montpellier have a few additions to their squad that they were missing last year. Hopefully Mike Daly will be back and try and get himself as fit as possible. And I just think Montpellier could be a dark horse for them there.
With that, your own club Milltown coming up against them this weekend, and nearly like everyone who's playing Mike Cullen now these days, it's just about so vital to keep it tight at the start. Even similar to what James has done there in round 2. Yeah,
and look at James did really well against them, in fairness. And look at that's all you can do. Milltown, in fairness, they did. I don't know for sure, but I know the first 2 games were the 2 they targeted, and it was brilliant to get 2 wins from those 2 games, which is nearly has them safe in senior football. Anthem from the Mike Cullen game would be a bonus, but it's it's hard to see it. Mike Cullen, they're so strong, so physical. Milltown will be a smaller, faster team, but as you say, if they'll go out and they'll compete. Milltown will never lack any courage or and they'll try. Jarlath Jennings and Justin Burke are down there now with Shane Welsh and Terry Godwin. They're doing a great job. Jeremy Blake takes a lot of sessions as well, so they're doing really, really well. I expect them to keep it tight as much as possible, but it's hard to see anything other than a Mike Cullen win, in fairness.
Yeah, just with that for Milltown, because obviously there's some people who hadn't have seen them. You talk there, they've obviously beaten Letchmore and Spiddle. They were obviously 2 games of the target, but how have they looked like? Because obviously with this Milltown team, people will always reference the more experienced players, but is there a balance there this year? Because even some games, I know for the first game we seen Mike Martin come in, he didn't start, but is there a balance there now? Do you feel between youth and experience there?
And there is, we feel in Milltown that we haven't enough youth coming up now. They're doing great work in the underage, and even last night I was in Pearse Stadium. They won the under-15 Shield final against Clifton, and that was a brilliant game, and a few brilliant footballers coming up there. So, like, look, at the future is bright, albeit it's a numbers game now in the club at the moment, and you can see Mike Cullen. The population there is increasing all the time, whereas the population of the likes of Milltowns and the Cartons and the Rock Galway clubs, the numbers are decreasing, in fairness. And again, that's not an excuse, but it's just numbers, it's population. But it's great to see that Milltown, my own club, have so many, good young lads coming up, and hopefully that'll, fruit and keep us senior for as long as possible. But saying that, the game in Oughterard, the last day against Spiddle, going back to the old lads again, but like Carl Blake was just, I think he's 39 years of age, and I don't know who picks the team of the week, but maybe if it's Johnny Higgins or one of them, but how he didn't make the team of the week at midfield is beyond me, because he was exceptional.
How did these older players from Milltown keep going?
I don't know, to be honest. I can't believe Carl is still going and playing so well at this age, and he's a young family, he's a busy life, he's running a bar, running a farm. I just don't know how he does it. But I think it's really the love of the club, and it's his father before him, his brothers, his uncles, and there's a number of small families like that in the area, and it's just for the love of the club that they keep going.
It's just really bred into them, isn't it?
Absolutely. You couldn't describe it better.
But Mike Cullen obviously heavy favourites for that one. You'd expect them to win, but it'll be interesting now to see how they, I suppose, feed all these players who've been away and who've had a couple of injuries back into the team.
Yeah, but they've such a strong squad. Like, you look at it, the last day they'd no Peter Cook, they'd no Sean Kelly, they'd no Jared Davern.
No Daniel Cox either.
No Daniel Cox, yeah. And there's so many good young players. Like young Corcoran was man of the match. He's a brilliant Irish cornerback. They still have David Wynn. This Paul and Owen Kelly, Neil Mulcahy. Desi's flying again. He got 1-5 or whatever the last day. Owen Gallagher got 3 or 4 points. It's just the strength and depth they have. Even if they don't play Sean Kelly or they don't play Peter Cook, they're still on the bench to come off the bench if Milltown are still in the game with 10 or 15 minutes to go. And that's the difference. Like it's the depth in their squad that's the biggest addition for them.
Just obviously you had 9 Mike Cullen players, I think, at the start of the year, Richie. When you think of them 9 players, what stands out?
But it's their mentality more than anything else. They're just like they're brilliant fellas. They're brilliant trainers. I know Sean was hurt. Neil Mulcahy hurt. Owen Kelly got an injury. Like, he nearly tore his hamstring off the bone, but he wanted to come back after 3 weeks, even though it was an 8 or 10 week injury. He's that type of fella. It's just they're just brilliant men, brilliant leaders, and like to get a group of that like that into a club team, it just shows that's why they're so hard to beat, and that's why they're contenders for the All-Ireland.
Even with that, you talk about Neil and Owen getting injured, but they were really good at the start of the league. And Jared Davern, like, they're 3 players from last year who weren't really involved at all going on this year, and they're 3 players as well as with these other bigger players that stand out. Oh,
absolutely. Like Neil Mulcahy's first game for Galway was against Mayo down in Castlebar, himself and Owen Kelly. On that day, I know it was back in, was it January or early February, and conditions were terrible, and they just took the game to Mayo. They got short kickouts and just took the ball up the field and took the game to Mayo in their first games, for Galway, it was just brilliant to see. And it was just unfortunate that the injuries they got. But as you say, look, they'll be brilliant additions again for this year.
Do you expect Mike Cullen to have too much?
Mike Cullen will have too much in the end. Look, hopefully Milltown will, stay in the game for as long as possible. But as much as I'd love to see Milltown win it, it'd be great if they stay in the game, as I say, as long as possible. But it's hard to see anything else other than my Cullen victory.
Another game in that group as well. We have Lettermore. They're playing James's. Lettermore have really struggled in their opening 2 games.
They have struggled. Go on, sorry, yeah.
They have struggled, and then James's. They've obviously had a great opening win against Annadown, came up short against Mike Cullen. But for them, it's about backing this up now again.
It is, and look, they backed it up after, they had a great win, as you say, against Annadown. They backed it up very well against Mike Cullen. They played from the bits I saw on TV. Even Paul went in full forward for a while, which is a handful for anybody in there. Sam O'Neill is playing really, really well, as well as his brother, who's just back from I think a cruciate injury that I think he got picked in playing soccer. And look at Owen Concannon and Johnny Dewan are back, and again, just 2 great stalwarts of the club and brilliant club players, even at this stage of their career. But as I said, they did back it up against Mike Cullen even, and beating Annadown, and Annadown are playing really, really well. So look at Lettermore. I heard they were very poor against Milltown. So you'd expect James's to come out on top in that one, really.
Just since he went in with Galway, and we all know how much of a stalwart and just a veteran of Galway football Paul Conroy is, but what just jumps out when he initially came in, and what you see him now and what he's still doing at his age, to still be producing it as one of the top midfielders in the country.
But again, I've said it about a few of the lads, but I'd say I'd put Paul Conroy in the same category as the previous Galway footballer Gary O'Donnell. It's just they're never injured. I know Paul got a serious injury, but apart from that, he's 34 years of age now. Just never wants to miss training, never misses training. Even when you want the S&C guys want to pull him out from training, he never wants to miss training. It's just his influence on the group, his leadership skills, just the way he talks in the meetings, his understanding of football. It's just I couldn't talk highly enough about Paul Conroy. He's just a phenomenal man. And if the day comes that he does retire, it's going to be a massive loss for Galway football.
You're really keen to keep him for another year, and yes.
2, I'd say at least.
Just with James is if they get the result against Lettermore, this really puts them in a good position then.
Yeah, look at they've had the 2 points, so you'd be hoping any team that gets in around the 4 or 5 anyway should. First of all, everyone wants to get safe and not have the relegation battle, but and it's going to be hard. Looking with obviously Mike Cullen more than likely will win all their games, so it's between James and Annadown, Milltown then for that second spot. So if James's win that, and Mike Cullen beat Milltown, then there'll be a lot of teams on 4 points there, so it'll be all to play for in the last couple of games.
Final game then in Group 1, it's Annadown coming up against Donspidgel. Annadown had a poor performance opening day out, but they've recovered now. They've got a victory. They're in 3rd place on 2 points. And you're even talking there about not having Finian O'Lee this year, but I'd say no club more is feeling Finian O'Lee's loss than Donspidgel.
Yeah, so Finian and Antona really are the heartbeat of Spiddle, in fairness. No, I think Finian, he's due home. I don't know if he's home for this weekend, but I think he could be home for the last game or 2 in the group. But yeah, Finian, he plays midfield for Spiddle. I think Milltown played them in Pearse Stadium, was it last year, and he was midfield, and he nearly bet Milltown on his own. He's that type of player. And you look at any club like Spiddle, Lettermore, the Milltowns of this world, if they lose their main player, it's a massive loss, because they just don't have the strength and depth.
Annadown really want to get a victory here now, put themselves back in contention. Obviously, Alan Glynn's gone in there, but he only kind of just went in before the James's game, so they're probably only feeling kind of his addition now.
Yeah, definitely. And you look at Alan, as we know, he won an All-Ireland with Galway Minors. He's a great young coach coming up, and he'll definitely bring improvements out of Down, and you could see it against Lettermore. Now, albeit I was listening to it on the radio, but Damien got 1-3, 1-4. It's very hard to stop Damien when he's at full power, especially at club football. Michael Cummins is flying by all accounts, coming from centre half back, and of course Frankie's there always to get a couple of points. So you'd expect Annadown to beat Lettermore, and again that'll be a log jam at the top with Miltown and James's on 4 the way my predictions are going.
Yeah, it's really from my calling top spot, and it's going to be a real battle there between James's, Miltown, and Annadown, isn't it?
That's the way it's looking. No, not to say Spiddle or Lettermore could cause an upset. I don't think they will, to be honest. And then it'll be down to Miltown James's, Miltown Annadown game. Whoever comes out on top of those in the last two games.
They're all the games in the Senior Championship Group 1s. So they take place across Saturday and Sunday in the Senior Football Championship. A game to look forward to this weekend, John, Oughterard and Corofin.
Sorry, say that again, Paul.
Just a game to look forward to this weekend. It's definitely have to be Oughterard and Corofin this weekend.
Yeah, look at it. It'll be, and Oughterard are going really well. The 3 points. I know, they drew with Berna last week?
Yeah, drew with Berna, yeah.
Drew with Berna, yeah. And I know Matty was just back, Matty Tierney, and I think Ryan Monaghan was back as well. So like they've another 2 weeks training got as well with the club, which will bring them. But you just think though, Corofin, the way Liam Silk is back, Kieran is back. I know, albeit Ian Burke is gone, and is Jason gone for this weekend? Is he?
Yeah, Jason's gone. Yeah,
it's gone. Yeah, no, obviously there'll be massive losses. But you just think Corofin still with all their guile, Gary Sice is still up playing well up front, pulling the strings. But just even it'll be very hard for Oughterard to break them down, especially with Liam Silk, Kieran Malloy bombing forward, getting the scores that they've got already in the club games. So you just think Corofin would be too strong for them.
The one thing about Oughterard is, though, they do have a system here to frustrate teams.
They do, and I know it's 2 years ago now, I think, that they played Corofin in Pierce Stadium, a game I was at, and they did sit back that well, but it's just Corofin are so used to playing against defensive systems, and they have the patience to break it down. They have the players to break the lines. They're well used to teams, setting up defensively against them. And albeit Tommy Finnerty doing a brilliant job at Oughterard, I just think Corofin will have too much guile and too much experience to lose that match.
Yeah, with Corofin, you talked there how like Ian Burke and Jason are obviously gone now. Ian's obviously traveling or studying over in France, and Jason's gone traveling. Two big losses, but they've still been able to introduce the players around Brian Coggers, the Jack McCabe's. These players have come in and they definitely have made impacts.
They have, and look at, I think Dara Silk is captain, I think, this year, and by all accounts is playing very, very well, and Dara's a brilliant footballer as well. And young Patrick Egan, he's coming on and off. Conor Cunningham, I think, is back playing with the senior squad as well. So, and look at Codger showed he's a brilliant. I think he plays wing forward at the moment, but he shows he's a brilliant attacking halfback as well. But look at Corofin have. They always have 25 very, very good footballers. They've 25 very good intermediate footballers. So, they have the strength. Whether they have the strength and depth to go all the way, that's to be answered yet. Will they have the forwards to get over the line against a Mike Cullen or against a Mount Bellew? I don't know, but I just think they'll have too much experience for Oughterard.
Games at 5:30 on Saturday in Pierce Stadium. Between Corofin and Oughterard. The other game on Saturday in that group 2 is Berna and Castran. It's safe to say must win here now. Berna 2 draws in their opening game. Castran no win, so it's really vital for both of these teams to try and get out of this relegation dogfight.
Oh, it's a massive game, especially for Castran, and just knowing Tommy Joyce over Castran. They are no more they're struggling with injuries. Alan Morris, who's a brilliant footballer, Taurus Crucius,
this time last year,
yeah. So, and I know he's back training, but he's just doing straight line running and things like that. He's a massive loss for them. I think Stephen Lawless could be injured, and it's just again Cardistran, the country team, they're struggling for numbers. Keane Darcy is gone, Oisin O'Brien is gone. So a lot of big names there that are gone for Cardistran. Now, saying that, they played very well against Salt Hill in Tuam the last day. They had their chances. Salt Hill were obviously too strong in the end, but Cardistran did a better performance than they had against Oughterard, so they are improving. look at Berna with Keane Brannock and Sean Fitz. Is Oisin Gormley, is he playing? Is he back?
Oisin Gormley's there, yeah. Keane Hearn and Sean Fitz as well.
Yeah, so like they're going really, really well. So you'd expect Berna to win it. As I said, Tommy Joyce and Curtis Strand, he'll have them hyped to the last. He'll have them tactically well in shape. And with Johnny McGrath playing there, they'll put everything up to Berna. But I just still think Berna will be too strong. Tom Curran is there as well for playing great football for the last few years with them. So as I say, it's a must-win game for both of them. Curtis Strand with no points on the board, but I just think Berna might be that just a bit stronger for them.
Just with that for Berna, like they're gonna want to not get a result here because like 2 draws, they've just kept themselves with a fighting chance towards the top of the table. But if there's no result here now, it really sets them back.
Yeah, and look at if they don't get a result, obviously it'll because you'd expect Hill to beat Killannon, which will push them up onto 4 points in Corofin there. So it will be a big kick in the teeth for their chances of getting to the quarterfinal if they don't win. So I'd say they probably have no more than Carlos Strand. They probably earmark this game to say this is the biggest game. We need to get this to win to give us to have any chance of making the quarterfinals. And I just think they will get over it. And just saying that the quarterfinals, but who it's the top 2 teams in each group.
Top 2 teams in each group, and then the best third place team, and then a preliminary quarterfinal between the 2 other teams to come third.
All right, okay. So the third team in Group 3 has a chance as well.
Yeah, the third team. So the highest third place team, they'll go straight into quarterfinal, which will make 7 teams, and then the other 2 thirds will play in preliminary quarterfinal. I think there's probably a lot to be said last year after having Milltown dramatically missed out on that quarterfinal spot. Just with that, the third game and that, or just before we do get into the third game, we actually had Finian Handy on the podcast a couple of weeks ago with Alan Flynn, and we were talking just about Galway's year as a whole in 2023. One of the biggest positives for your year in 2023, I presume, has to be the development of Johnny McGrath.
Yeah, look, it was brilliant, and Johnny, he got physically in 12 months what he did with his body, and just to get as strong as he did without losing any of his pace, it was brilliant, and it's credit to him and credit to the strength and conditioning team. But ever since Johnny played for the under 16s, under 17s, minors, he's just been a brilliant footballer. And again, it's Johnny. He just goes about his business in a nice, quiet manner. But like his attitude is second to none. He loves training. Again, rarely injured. But just a brilliant footballer. And he's one of the go-to players now for man marking jobs. And look at he showed this year how good he is. And he's many years now in a Galway jersey ahead of him.
The final game then, that group, Killannon and Salthill. Salthill not going overly well at the minute, but injuries as well have been affecting them. They're up against Killannon. It's 4th versus 5th this weekend, 5:30 on Sunday in Pearse Stadium. But you're really expecting the kind of switch now to kind of flick with Salthill this weekend.
Well, it really needs to, because there was a lot of talk of Salthill, especially after their performance in the county final and getting to the county final last year. And they played really well. Now, I know Rob was injured, or he came off injured the last day, and I'm not sure. I think his back is still at him. Tomo is still injured. John Maher went off injured. They're 3 pivotal players for them. Now, if the 3 of them are missing, it gives Killannon a fighting chance. So I'm not sure what the update on those injuries are, if you know any more on it. But again, Salthill, they have a good underage system. They have a good big squad. They have a lot of good young lads coming up. Carl Sweeney, Daniel Faherty, very unheralded players. And you'd fancy them, although Johnny Heaney would probably kill me for saying it, you will fancy them to beat Killannon, because I saw Killannon playing a league match in Milltown earlier on in the year. And while they have a few good players, again, I'd say like rural clubs, they're just lacking for numbers. And it's like any club, there's 7 or 8 good players, and then the other 7 or 8 are just average. And if they have injuries or that, it's a struggle. It's a struggle. Now, saying that, I could be eating my words come Sunday evening, but you just have to fancy Salthill, even with the couple of injuries they have, especially with all that's on it. Salthill have to win this game if they want to keep their quarterfinal chances alive.
It's still speaks also getting to a county final.
It's again, they're definitely in the top 4 or 5 teams. It'll depend on injuries. If Rob was unbelievable last year for them, and if he gets back to that kind of form, and if John Maher stays fit and plays the way he played for Galway during the year, they've definitely a chance. But it's just, from the first 2 games, it's very hard to see have they improved on last year. But again, if the injuries clear up, they definitely have a chance. I'd still put them as number 4, I'd say, in the pecking order. You have Mike Cullen, Montbellew, Corofin just ahead of them. But then they showed last year what they can do, so you just don't know. But they're definitely one of the top 4 or 5 teams that have a chance.
Only thing with Killannon there coming in to back of this game, a positive performance where they kind of pushed Corofin when they come up short by 3. But that's all the action in Group 2. In Group 3, the Group of 5, obviously, Claregalway have a bye this weekend, so we have Montbellew on top with 4 points, then Claregalway and on 2 points, St. Michael's in third on 2 points, Tuam on nothing, and Dunmore on nothing. So they're just 2 games in that group this weekend. So on Saturday, you have Michael's and Tuesdays in Dublin Park at 4:30, and then on Saturday you have Dunmore McHale's and Montbellew in the stadium at 6 o'clock. But for Michael's and Tuesdays, this is really huge.
Oh, it's massive, especially it was a bit of a surprise. Claregalway beating Tuam last week or 2 weeks ago. And albeit I saw that on telly, in fairness, Claregalway in the second half definitely deserved their victory. They were poor in the first 10 or 15 minutes, but they did come back up, and it was a very entertaining, high-scoring game. But it was a bit of a shock that Claregalway beat Tuam. So Tuam now, and if Tuam lose another game, their chances of getting to the quarter-final will be very limited. So they'll see this game as a must-win, definitely, as will St. Michael's, who bet Dunmore in the first round. And by all accounts, I was away for that game, but they were very, very lucky. They took a good early lead, but they were lucky to hold on to win that by a goal. But I just think Tuam and the 3 or 4 players missing against Claregalway, from what I hear, they're going to be back. And Brian Mannion should be back, who was an awful loss. I know he came on, but he's their main scoring threat and a very, very good forward. So with him being back, and the 2 or 3, I think Rory O'Donnell and a few more should be back fit. With them, if they are all back fit, I just see Tuam be too strong for St. Michael's on the day.
You can see Tuam recovering from the opening day defeat.
Sorry, Paul, say that again?
You can see Tuam recovering from their opening round, get things back on track.
I just think with the injuries, if they've recovered from their injuries and Brian Mannion back fit, as I say, he's their main scoring threat up front, and with them fit, I just see them just having too much for St. Michael's.
Yeah, Michael's the big worry, I suppose, to be they only kicked 1-1 against Montbellew, which is a concern. But now they are boosted by the return name of Brannigan.
Oh yeah, look at him, and it'll be a massive addition for them. He's one of their main players for the last few years. He's been playing for Galway for the last number of years as well, and very, very good athletic player. And obviously will be a boost to St. Michael's, a boost to any club. But I just think with the few lads Tuam have coming back will override that, and still that should get them over the line.
The other game, Montbellew and Dunmore McHale's, as I mentioned, at 6 o'clock on Saturday evening in Tuam Stadium. Why can Montbellew win Frank Fox for you this year?
Well, it's just you look at the players they have, the physicality of them. It's very, very similar to the Mike Cullen situation. Now Val has them in brilliant shape. Look, hope to God Michael Daly is coming back to some sort of fitness. If he is, no more than Shane Moore, as we said earlier, coming back from Montbellew, they're 2 pivotal players. I know Patrick Kelly is still injured. I don't know what his current situation is, but again, I hope he'll be back by the year end for the club. By the end of the club championship, and they're just the Barry McHugh, Owen Finnerty, James Foley's a brilliant back. Billy Mannion. They have any amount. John Daly. I'm missing Matthew Barrett is there with them. It's just the amount of good players. They've good players all over the pitch. They've 15 very good players. They're big, physical. They know how to win a county final. And again, they were unlucky enough last year against Mike Cullen without the couple of players that I've mentioned. So I think with all of those players back, I just think Montbellew, like they're definitely in the top two, in my opinion, for the club honours.
Is Michael Daly still someone that's on your Galway radar?
Oh, definitely. If Michael gets back fit, he's always on the radar. So like he's a phenomenal player, phenomenal athlete, and hopefully he'll have a good club championship. Hopefully his knee will be okay, and like he'll be more than welcome back into the Galway setup.
You just suspect him probably to have too much for Dunmore. I think that, as you mentioned there, that game Dunmore targeted against Michaels, they didn't get something. They've had their break now, but it's just a big task for Dunmore now this weekend.
It's a big task against Montbellew. I think Pádraig Costello is back. He was missing against St. Michael's. He'll be a big addition back with them, like himself, Shane McGrath, Jake Sattery will prove, difficult to manage for the Montbellew backs up front. I just think Dunmore struggle a bit at midfield.
He's a loss to Matthew Reddington, though, isn't it?
He's a massive loss for them, in fairness. And like they're struggling to replace him, to be honest. And like Montbellew are very physical and strong in the middle of the park. And I just think that if Dunmore break even at least around the middle of the park, they'll struggle to get enough scores to beat Montbellew. And you just have to think Montbellew will be too strong for them.
I'm just going to run through a couple of the intermediate games. So Glenmaddy and Williamstown on Saturday at 6 o'clock. Brendan's versus Oncarua, that game as well in Group 1 of the Intermediate Championship. Then just in Group 2, Clifton versus Caltra and Corofin's second team. They're coming up against Monavea Abbey, which is interesting there. Mike Farrer obviously involved with Monavea Abbey. A local derby then on Saturday, Corofin Shamrocks and Kilconnelly, and the other game in that group is Kilkerran Clonberne versus Micheál Brannocks, who had a great win in the opening round of the Intermediate Championship. And then in Group 4, it's Kilmahern versus Ormore Mary and Gabriels versus Illinois. They're all the 8 games across the Intermediate Football Championship. John, has there been any teams that stood out for you so far in the Intermediate? I know we're only into the second round now of it.
No, look at, I suppose you have to look at Monavea Abbey and Killian McDade. He's just such a powerful influence, especially at intermediate level. That a brilliant win over Clifton at the start. And as you said, that's a very intriguing game, especially with Mike Farrer training Monavea Abbey and the great Francis Roach over them. Monavea played Milton in a challenge there 3 or 4 weeks ago, and they look very, very strong for an intermediate team. And again, Killian is at the forefront of it. He's playing up front for them, which is unusual, but seems to be working for them. And look, they have their eyes on the intermediate title big time, and like they'll probably be too strong for Corofin. But I know saying that then my own clubman Darren Malahy is over Glenmaddy, and he's by all accounts he's doing brilliantly with them. They had a great win last week against Carrow. Was it Carrow, I think?
Yeah, Carrow 1-8.
1-8, yeah. And like that's a massive win to beat a senior team after coming down. And they're doing really, really well. Aidan and McDarragh Gurty, Conor Raftery, there's some really, really good players. And that's a massive local derby there against Williamstown. So I think Glenmaddy will probably win that as well. And that'll really put them in good stead then, having 4 points out of 4.
And John, if you're to call it, who's going to win the Intermediate Championship?
Oh, it's a difficult one, but I have a sneaky feeling for Micheál Brannocks. Now, again, Francis Roach, if he's listening to this, will kill me because he thinks Abbey are certainties. And look at Abbey. They'll have a great chance. Glenmaddy got there last year. Kilconnelly were in the final, but I have a sneaky feeling. I just think Killian O'Curran and they've 1 or 2 other lads that are coming on stream there, and I just think the fighting spirit of that of Micheál Brannocks could get them over the line.
Yeah, no, it's definitely a difficult championship to call. That group obviously tell a lot as well. Yeah, first, second, and third advancing out of the groups, preliminary quarterfinals. But after this weekend, the intermediate will tell a lot. Like huge games to look forward to this weekend in the senior and intermediate championship. But that's all we have time for on our show. If you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. And thanks a million, John, for coming on.
No problem. Thanks, Paul.